How are we doing, guys? All these investigates, and this week the focus is on Leeds versus Derby, a big match preview. We're going to look at the tactical details of both teams, how both teams are probably going to set up, and how the game is probably going to go. You know, what are the certain elements of the game we can expect, you know, player battles, individual battles, etc, etc, and how both teams are going to set up. It's going to be a bit of a detailed match preview. I did something similar for West Brom earlier on in the season. I think I did one for Stoke as well, where I'm going into a bit more detail of what I felt both teams were going to set up like. And it just works well. You know, I've not done all these investigates for quite a few weeks, not been able to get it in. We've had that many games, and I think we played on a Wednesday a couple of times, or we've had games around the Wednesday, so we've not been able to quite fit it in. This is the return, if you like, of all these investigates. So let's get on with it. So Derby, we're going to start with the visitors. Derby, how they set up. Now, Derby have changed, you know, quite a bit over the season. You know, start of the season, it tended to be a bit more 4-2-3-1. They went to a bit for 4-4-2. You know, I think Frank Lampard, obviously in his first job in English football, in football in general, is still, you know, he's still trying to get his feet on the ground. I think, to be fair to him, Derby, you know, I'm a massive fan of the style of play, you know, they play with. You know, the attacking brand of football. They try and create chances. They always try and take the game to the opposition, no matter who they play. And to be fair, that game in August, I think it came to their cost. You know, I think the way they set up, I think Conor touched on it in his Transfer Tuesday. Make sure you check out Transfer Tuesday. You know, he did that yesterday. Make sure you check that out. Conor did a live stream, an hour-long stream. The stamina of the lad is unbelievable. But yeah, make sure you check that out. But yeah, as he said, the way Derby set up in that game was very much to their cost. And I think that was probably an early lesson to Frank Lampard. But to be fair to him, he stuck to his principles. He seems quite a principled manager, like a Marcelo Bielsa to an extent, in terms of he's not going to adapt for this league. He has his belief in his brand of football, and he's going to stick with it. So what can we expect from Derby? So I'm looking at this team selection, if you like, and I think we're looking at probably a 4-3-3. In goal, I think we can definitely expect Scott Carson. Right back is probably going to be Jayden Bogle. Centre backs will be Keogh and Tamori. Left back is probably going to be Craig Forsyth. Now the debate is in the midfield three. You know, it's changed quite a lot over the last couple of weeks. They have got Tom Lawrence returning back from injury. He came back with a bang against Southampton, got a superb goal in that game. And I think he made a good goal for Jack Marriot as well. He was a lovely little assist. He's a good player as well, this Tom Lawrence. So I think he will come back in, and it does slightly change things in the midfield as such. I think in the hold midfield role, I'd expect to see George Evans probably. There's a possibility it might be Bradley Johnson. It might be Craig Bryson. There's a lot of different options to go for there. But I think it'll be George Evans, who's probably the only sort of natural out-and-out holding midfielder in this Derby team. And ahead of him, a very attack-minded midfield two of Mason Mount and Harry Wilson as well. Harry Wilson's going to be someone I'm going to talk a lot about in this preview. He's a key part of this Derby team. On the right-hand side, it's debatable. Now, there's two options here. They've gone with Martin Waghorn, but with Tom Lawrence back, I'd expect Florian Joseph through it soon, who has been playing on the left-hand side, to move over to the right. Left-hand side, I definitely expect to be Tom Lawrence, and through the middle, Jack Marriott. It's a possibility Martin Waghorn might be part of that front three, either on the right or left. So, you know, it's a very attack-minded team. You know, I think what we can expect off Derby is they love to have possession of the football. You know, they love to play very similar kind of style to ourselves. I don't think they're quite as effective at playing possession-based football as ourselves. I don't think they've quite got the as many. I think we've probably got the better passers of the ball as such, rather than Derby, if that makes sense. You know, I think we are more built to keep possession. You know, I think we win the ball back quickly. I don't think Derby have quite got that as much as us, but don't get me wrong, you know, Derby, I think in terms of creativity and individual skill, probably have got some of the best players in the league in that sort of aspect. You know, players who can score from absolutely anywhere. I mean, I'm just going to run a couple of clips here. You know, you're looking at Harry Wilson scoring amazing goals. You know, there's one there. Mason Mount, again, top player. He's sort of had a bit of a, what's the best word for it? A shortage of goals over the last couple of months. A little bit like Mateus Click, but he's got a capability to score from anywhere. And then, of course, you have Tom Lawrence as well, who I've mentioned. You know, a lot of individual players who can score from anywhere, and that's key to having any team at this level. You know, players who can turn the game on their own. You know, individual skill in the team. And I think what they like as well is a counter-attack. They love a counter-attack, Derby. I think that's something they've definitely found in their sort of play. You know, I think especially in this game, where I probably expect, even though both teams are possession-based, we'll probably still shade the possession. You know, I think there's very few. I think there's only been one game all season where we've not had more possession of the ball than the opposition. So Derby are probably going to have to rely a lot on the counter-attack, but my word, they have some threat on the counter-attack. I mean, I'm going to run a few clips here as well. Look at the speed they break at. It's unbelievable. You know, it's probably the best counter-attacking team in the league. It all comes from that man, Harry Wilson. You know, Mason Mount playing the intelligent little pass into Harry Wilson, and he starts a lot of the counter-attacks. Of course, they've got Tom Lawrence, Florian Joseph soon, Jack Marriott, all pacey, a fluid, attacking, pacey front three. And it's probably one of the most fluid front threes in the league. So, we've clearly got that threat there about them. But there are weaknesses to this team. I'm just looking through Derby here. I think you've certainly got to look at, defensively. Defensively, they have got issues. They conceded, I think, 32 goals this season, which is quite a lot, for a team that's up there. 32 goals in 26 games is quite a lot. And I think what is quite noticeable as well is, a stat I have found is that, as they are possession-based, they don't like it when they don't have possession of the ball. Something I'm going to go through with later on in the preview. They don't like it when they don't have as much possession of the ball because they've got to do more off-the-ball work. And something that's been very noticeable is the amount of goals they concede when they have less possession than the opposition. At the moment, they're letting in 2 goals a game in the 6 games where they've had less possession than the opposition, compared to 1 goal a game in the games where they've been able to control it a little bit more and had more possession than the opposition. Now, look, possession isn't everything, but in certain aspects, I think it is important. I think Derby love to have the ball and love to have the attacking threats like Harry Wilson, Mason Mount, Tom Lawrence having as much possession of the ball as possible, getting as many touches as possible, etc., etc. And then you're looking as well, is that, they don't like tracking back. It's clear to see. We're going to go through that as well later in the preview. But this Derby team, it's got a lot of strengths, but there are weaknesses to it as well. I think at times when I've seen them, West Brom away, they won 4-1, they won 4-3 at Norwich. You saw the good and bad with Derby. Excellent going forward, but are bad at the back. Got the centre backs. I'm not going to have a go at Richard Keogh and Tamori. I think they have been good at times, but they are prone to errors, individual mistakes. And both players had shockers against us. And you sort of look at the goals we scored against them. A lot happened in the wide positions. And they have changed fullbacks, but I think they've got an issue in those wide positions. They like to get Craig Forsyth forwards. They like to get Jayden Bogle forwards. But we can expose that, and we did that really well. I think probably Ezjan Leofsky probably had his best game of the season so far in that Derby game. He got himself a goal and an assist, and they couldn't cope with that. Our movement in behind them. We had more possession than them, and we had to pin their fullbacks back. I don't think their fullbacks are the strongest defensively. I think all round as a back four, I don't think it's the strongest. I think Scott Carson's a decent enough keeper. Obviously he's a former Leeds keeper, but they have got a weakness defensively.
So looking at ourselves then, so you're looking at the team now, hopefully Liam Cooper is back for this game. He played the under-23 game against Hull on Monday night. Hopefully that's a sign Liam Cooper is back available for this game. Obviously I'm filming this bit before we actually get any team news, before any sort of press conferences, etc., etc. But one thing talking to press conferences, one thing that Marcelo Bielsa did sort of hint at was a potential switch in formation. And we saw a switch in formation against QPR to more of a 4-2-3-1 shape, and he hinted that he wants Pablo to be his number 10. Now, it's interesting trying to work out how this is going to work in a 4-2-3-1. Obviously, we know Calvin Phillips isn't available, and that is a massive, massive loss. It goes without saying, it's an absolutely humongous loss, that. But looking at the back four, first of all, I think we can expect Bailey Pickett-Farrell in goal, Luke Ayling right back, Pontus and Liam Cooper. Liam Cooper's come straight into the team, Barry Douglas at left back. And then I think in the midfield two, if presume we are going with a 4-2-3-1, I'd expect to be Adam Forshaw and Mateusz Klich. Now for me, this is where we massively miss Calvin Phillips, in terms of, when you look at our best, when we were at our best at the start of the season, I'm not saying we've been poor by any means the last couple of months, but we've not quite been at our top level. I mean, we've still been getting excellent results, but when we were at our absolute best, you have to look at what we were doing. Everything was so quick. We get from the goalkeeper to the midfield in about 4 or 5 passes. It was Bailey Pickett-Farrell to Pontus Jansson or Berardi, 1 touch, 2 touch. They'll play it into Calvin Phillips, and Calvin Phillips will play 1 touch into Mateusz Klich or Pablo Hernandez, or you'll go for a crossfielder onto Kemal Roof or Ezjan Leofsky. It was all so quick. The tempo was so fast, and I think, unfortunately, what we've seen, I think, within the 4-1-4-1 is Adam Forshaw playing that holding midfield role. It hasn't worked. I think obviously, you think pretty much in every aspect of his game, Calvin Phillips is probably better in that position than Adam Forshaw. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm an Adam Forshaw fan, but you look at the main thing. I think the main difference is the speed of play. Adam Forshaw sort of takes a couple of touches, not criticising Adam Forshaw, but in that position, that style of play, you need a Calvin Phillips in there who's going to play 1 touch, 2 touch, straight into sort of the more creative players, and we're away. But this presents an opportunity, I think. I think in that sort of 2, I'd be happier with Adam Forshaw and Mateusz Klich. I think I did sort of say in the QPR post-match that wasn't too happy about that, but thinking about it, I think it could work. I think the main thing is having Mateus Click there to start the attack. He's probably the best one-touch passer in the league, never mind this team. And I've never seen someone who can, you can just so accurately play that one-touch pass, just one touch, bang, away, and it is so good, getting that speed, playing out the back, and I think it'll get that back if we do play Mateus Click a bit deeper. I'm not saying that is Mateus Click's best position, but I think he gets better out of that team. I think it allows Pablo Hernandez to have a bit more of a free role. I think in that sort of central role, as more of a conventional centre midfielder, I think you lose a bit of creativity from Pablo Hernandez. I think he's less able to drift into positions, where he wants to go. He can't drift onto that left wing, he can't drift onto that right wing. I think he's a bit more limited when he's playing as an out-and-out centre mid. But as a number 10, I think naturally he's going to be able to be a little bit more creative and see where the spaces are and be the creative link of this team. So that's the way I sort of see it. I sort of see it as a 4-2-3-1. Adam Forshaw and Mateus Click, I think, has to be the midfield too. I certainly don't see Lewis Baker playing there. There's an argument to say maybe Jamie Shackleton could play there, but it's a big risk in a game like this to play him there. In terms of the attacking three, now it's not necessarily what I'd go with, but it's what I'm expecting. I'd probably say Jack Harrison. I'd probably argue Jack Clark should probably start on that right side or left hand side instead, but it'd probably be Jack Harrison on the right, Pablo through the middle, Ezjan Liovski on the left. Ezjan Liovski in a game like this is important. He can provide that extra cover, defensively. We know their fullbacks like to push forward, and it's a clear threat from our side of things. So we need to have that little bit more of someone who's going to put that work rate in. And I think Ezjan Liovski thrives in games like this. As they push forward, it'll give him more space to attack as well. I think he's much better in these kind of games, Ezjan Liovski. And then through the middle, Kemal Roof, who hopefully is going to produce another performance like he did in the away game. So the key battle in this game then, for me, is Pablo Hernandez against Harry Wilson. The battle of the game changers. I think at this level, they're probably the two biggest game changers in terms of individually and how big a role they play for their teams. I mean, we all know how important Pablo Hernandez is and how much we're going to need him in this game. But Harry Wilson's an absolutely crucial part of this Derby team as well. And I think what's interesting is that both are probably best on the right hand side or on the left hand side, certainly as wingers rather than sort of central midfielders, but both of them have found themselves moved into a central role to be the most influential players in the team, almost like as an excuse sort of to get them in a free role in both the starting 11s respectively. And I think it's going to be such a big battle. That, I mean, they both score hatfuls of goals, both can get a goal up from distance. It's just such an important battle, that one. I think both in the middle of the park, it's going to be a real interesting battle, that one. Can we stop Harry Wilson? Can Derby find a way to counteract Pablo Hernandez? That's going to be a massive part of this game for me. Whoever wins that battle is going to be able to influence things more, will play a big part in who wins this game for me. Last bit of the video then. This is going through tactically the game last August against Derby, and certain things I picked up from that game I think we can use on Friday night, to have a go at this Derby team, where we can get joy against this Derby team. So I'm just going through the first goal against Derby earlier on in the season. So I'm just going to start the clip playing here. So we win the ball high at the pitch. Sam says starts to counter, and we're away. So I'm just going to stop the clip here. Now, I spoke before about Derby's problem in terms of the midfield, that it's great going forward when it has plenty of possession. It's a very good midfield, but when they aren't able to have as much possession of the ball and having to do more work off the ball, they struggle a little bit. They play for it sort of, especially now when they're playing one holding midfielder. This was in a 4-2-3-1 with two holding midfielders, and they were struggling. The two holding midfielders in the picture here. It's Joe Ledley just by Sam Sayes there. I think it's Craig Bryson about 5 yards behind Pablo Hernandez on the run there. So that's the two screening midfielders there, totally out of position. The back four's disjointed. The left back in this picture isn't even in the picture. Obviously the rest of the back four's there, but there's a massive space there between the midfield and the two centre backs. That's a massive space to have for us. We've got people like Mateus Click there, people like Pablo Hernandez potentially getting into that space, Kemal Roof getting into that space, Jack Clark maybe getting into that space. That is a real sort of opportunity, I feel, for us, and you can see why Derby have that problem. When they have less possession of the ball, they concede a lot of goals, and you can see that because everyone's wanting to push forward and we can expose that space. So this is the clip that made it 3-1 in that game against Derby in August, and this is the build-up to that goal as well, and it just shows how important the midfield positioning is against Derby. It's when we have to push high, we push high. When we have to drop back a little bit, we have to drop back a little bit. But both ways, we'll still have possibilities to get counter-attacking opportunities. And these two videos that are coming up now, I hope will probably show that. So, just going to go through this third goal against Derby. So, if we just play here. So, we have the ball high up the pitch. We've gone on the attack. Samuel Saiz has lost the ball. And this is what you call counter-pressing. Proper counter-pressing of Calvin Phillips now. So, I'll stop that there. Calvin Phillips wins the ball high up the pitch. He was playing as a holding midfielder that day, as usual, in the holding midfield role, and he's pushed up that far up the pitch, even though he's playing a bit more defensively. But because we have the ball, we're all trying to push forward, and that is why it's worked so well against Derby. We lost the ball, but we were in good positions to counter-press Derby and get the ball back and get ourselves on the counter-attack ourselves. Phillips plays it into the one-touch master, Matthijs Klik, and then you know what happens after that. It goes to Kemal Roof, and it's the third goal. Now, Marcelo Bielsa made a big point today about Derby are totally different to what they were in August. We're a totally different team, were his exact words. And I'm just going to go back to a video from a couple of weeks ago against Norwich during the Christmas break, and it still shows that Derby still make the same mistakes in losing the ball too easily. So this is the second goal Norwich get against Derby. So you see Harry Wilson there, loses the ball unbelievably easily. Harry Wilson is a top player, but the Derby team, they're that individually focused, I think, in terms of creating chances through individual skill, that things like that are going to happen. They're going to try and take on one player too many and they lose the ball easily. Now, I've just paused it there. Look how many players they've got forward there, Derby. I'm not criticising that style of play. It's great to watch when it comes off. But they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players there in the final third of Norwich. Let's go through this goal now, the counter-attack, and how easily Norwich get through this Derby midfield now. So you look at that, Marriot picks up the ball, he's ran 10, 15, 20 yards, totally unchallenged, and look at that, that's the one holding midfielder in the team there, George Evans, next to Marriot, he's let him run 15, 20 yards. I think defensively, I just don't think this Derby team's all that, and I think we've got to take the most of those opportunities on the counter-attack. So we're going to wrap it up there, guys. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like and comment down below if you want to see more videos like this over the next couple of weeks when we've got some more big games coming up. And if you haven't done already, make sure you check out our last few videos. We've got Joe Wainman with Monday Night Football. He did it live again. Absolutely smashed it. Make sure you check that out if you haven't already. Got the boys at Talking Short who did an absolutely superb Talking Short live podcast as always. Superb. Make sure you check that out. It had Adam Pope on it. It was a great show. They've got some brilliant guests coming up as well. Make sure you check that out. Link in the description. And we also had, of course, last but not least, we had Ramblings to the South Stand. Conor went through Transfer Tuesday. It's going to be a Tuesday night show. We're going to do every single week of January. Just going through the transfer rumours, what we want to happen, etc, etc. Make sure you check that out. Another live stream, an hour-long stream that as well. Plenty of good content for you guys. And of course, Joe and Conor will be doing match previews tomorrow as well. I've been Oscar Marriott, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you later. And here's a preview to next week's Leeds TV Investigates. See you later. Being down to 10 men, what was the team talk like at half time?
To be fair, we had to keep them calm and relaxed. We always let the lads have the first 3, 4, 5 minutes to themselves, and then we'll just come on in. So whatever they said to themselves, we'll let them do. We've always done that, no matter what game, so we wouldn't change it. Even though the last game we were down at 10 men, but then we went in, just relaxed them, made sure and get them belief that they could do it. No matter if we had 10 men, because this crowd will get behind you and it'll feel like you've got 12 men out there.